Spookies, and welcome to the Rick or Treat Horrorcast, hosted by yours ghoulie, Ricky J. Duarte. My guest this week is a friend of the pod. He has joined me before to discuss Child's Play 2 a couple of months back, and in week 3 of our Animal Attack Month, I thought it would be perfect to have a genuine Australian join me to talk about today's movie, the 1984 classic Razorback. So, welcome the host of the Creepy Crap podcast, Danny Boy.
Danny! Danny Boy?
Crikey! How you going? Thank you for having me back. I'm glad I passed the casting couch audition.
You really gotta sanitize that couch. Your last episode was such a hit, and I had so much fun with you. I had to have you back. Danny, you are the host, as I mentioned, of Creepy Crap Podcast. You recap mostly crap movies, but the occasional really good one as well. Why don't you tell my listeners a little bit about your show?
Yeah, occasionally they slip a good one in there. Yeah, pretty much what you said. I like to just choose ones that look crap and then ones I haven't seen so I can kind of watch it, stop as I go, talk about it, kind of get the opinion as I'm going, so I kind of speculate and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, most of the time they're pretty crap, but then occasionally you get one that's surprisingly good, or one I've seen and I just want to badmouth it, so I purposely choose it. It's a free therapy, I guess.
You keep your show really entertaining.
Yeah,
you are a funny guy.
Stop it.
I think even if you're not trying to be funny, just your description of these movies is terrific. And I said it last time, you watch some of these movies so that I don't have to. And thank you for your service.
Yeah, I'm doing a service for everyone. This is like a subgenre that's way worse than me, though. I see people who watch like the worst of the worst. I'm like, I'm not that person. I don't go that far. I'm like, they do a service for me.
Right.
I'm like middle tier. I feel like in the crap movie arena, whatever you want to call it. Probably not arena.
Well, you do watch a lot of movies. Have you seen anything lately that you'd actually recommend?
Yeah, I feel like I brushed upon it, I think last time, that like it's a time warp here. So everything I'm watching that I'm like, oh, cool, this just came out. Like we literally, I think Evil Rise or whatever is still at the movies at the moment.
Okay.
Like the new Evil Dead, like that's at the movies now still. Scream 6 just came out on like the streaming service here. I don't know if that was the same there or not, but which I haven't watched any of them. I don't know why I mentioned it, but
they're really good. They're both great.
Yeah, I've been watching Ash vs. Evil Dead, so I've been doing that a lot lately, and I haven't been watching a lot of movies. I watched Evil Dead because of the show inspired me, but yeah, not much. Terrifier and stuff like that. Nothing new, to be honest.
What do you think about Ash versus the Evil Dead?
I like it.
It's great, right? I
watched it a while back, and then something happened, and I never watched the rest of it. So it's good watching. It is, but there's only 3 seasons or something. So I'm on like the last episode of season 2, and then yeah, all that season will be new to me. But yeah, it's a bit of a bummer knowing it's ending and that Ash won't return at all again or something like that. You're like, damn.
Yeah, Bruce, he might come back at some point. Maybe. I don't know.
I reckon he would.
I was part of the camp when the movie was, when the TV show was going to get canceled and it was pretty clear that ratings had gone down. Bruce Campbell encouraged people to just put the show on, and you don't even have to sit and watch it. Just like put the show on your TV so that they get some streaming numbers going up. And I was one of the people who did that. I was trying to keep it going, but
Yeah, I heard that because it was like, that were like the most downloaded show for quite a while. Like, so it was like the interest was there. It's just no one watched it legally or something like that.
It's such a bummer because it really was fucking cool.
Do you guys have Nielsen boxes or something like that? Is that a thing over there? I've heard it
the
mentioned
Nielsen
where like
rating,
families have it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing anymore. I think that was more
Okay.
in the earlier stages of television through maybe the 80s.
All right. Yeah, we just got it here, so
Really?
No,
Oh.
I've just heard it right.
Yeah,
We just
no,
got color TV.
so we just got color. So that was if you were a Nielsen family, you got a box that you hooked up to your TV, and so your viewing kind of added, that's where they gauged ratings for television shows.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the term I heard. Nielsen family or whatever. I was like, oh,
Yeah, that hasn't been a thing for a while, especially now with streaming. They just have automatic updates to what people are watching,
oh yeah, that's pretty good.
which is kind of
Um,
scary. Like, I'm sure Netflix is keeping track of exactly what I watch. Although I just canceled my Netflix subscription. So this writer's strike that's going on in Hollywood, right?
oh yeah,
Uh,
refresh me on that. I've literally kept up with that at no point.
yeah, it's a big deal, and people are talking about it. Writers are not getting paid what they deserve, and there's this unfair imbalance of CEOs. I think a statistic I read was there are 8 CEOs in Hollywood that are making more money than every writer in the world. And
Really?
yes, don't quote me. It's what I read. I don't know if you can believe what's on the internet, but I will say, without writers, we don't have stories to tell, right?
Yeah.
So they're on strike.
As a
I know
famous actor, how does that affect you?
me as a famous actor.
Yeah.
Well, luckily I'm also a writer, but I'm not on strike
Oh,
because
sorry.
I don't
Triple threat.
I'm writing, my reviews and articles and such.
Oh yeah.
I will say the Tony Awards will not be broadcast. The Broadway Tony Awards will not be broadcast because of the writer's strike.
Oh.
So anyway, it has surfaced that the biggest enemy for the writer's strike is Netflix. Netflix is not paying the writers that are coming up with their material enough money. And so I really looked at my
Damn.
subscriptions, especially since I just moved. You know what I mean? And moving's expensive, and looked at all my
Yeah.
subscriptions, and I was like, I
Did you
don't.
just move to LA? Is that easier for work?
No, silly. I'm staying. I'm a New York City boy.
Fair
Uh,
enough.
I don't watch Netflix anymore. Like there has not been good enough stuff. Like Bridgerton, maybe once a year I'm interested, but so I just ended up canceling it, and in conjunction and in support specifically of the writer strike.
Yeah, do like a month and then just cancel it again.
Yeah, right. For some apps, that's the best. Just wait until a show is finished, then sign up for a month and binge it, and then you're done.
Yeah, I've done that before. Good plan. Sorry.
All right. Well,
Full
hey,
of good quotes today.
I do want to thank you, Danny, as well, for taking time to be on the show while you are under the weather. You're a good man and true, and I so appreciate you. What time is so? Last time we did this, I recorded at I think 7 a.m. my time, and it was
Yeah,
normal waking hours for you. And now it's about noon for me. And what time is it for you right now?
it's 2 a.m. at the moment,
Man,
which is better than it was going to be. Like, I was going to come from a night shift, but yeah, because as you said, I got a chest infection. Although I usually sound like this anyway, so it's not too different. But you were very kind enough to move it forward for me so I could go to sleep after this and sleep all day. It'd be nice. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I really appreciate you showing up. I really did.
Gentleman in a score.
I did encourage you to take the rest that you need, but you insisted. And so I appreciate you. So
Oh,
I brought you here to talk about a really cool movie. We're talking about Razorback, 1984. Now, you just so happen to have just done this
I
film
wasn't sure if we are going to bring that up.
on your podcast. Had you seen this movie before you talked about it on your podcast?
Yeah, I had actually. I'd watched it like ages ago. I think I did Bore like years ago.
So is Boar
And then
officially a remake of Razorback?
I think it's kind of, I think it's unofficial. I
Okay.
don't think it's 100%, but like it's like that you pretty much had to like attribute it to it or like
Yeah.
nod the hat to it and stuff. Like you couldn't do one that's identical and be like, I didn't even know about it. You're like, get fucked. There's not that many Australian movies. And
Right.
there's literally only one other one about a giant boar. It's like, and you just called it boar. Like, yeah. I feel like it's an unofficial one, but it's got the respect of that where people compare it all the time and stuff like that. I almost did that, but I'm like, I've already done it once. But yeah, I have seen it once. And now I've seen it quite a few times because do I admit that I forgot we had a plan for this?
So I hit Danny up a couple months, maybe 6 weeks ago, and I was planning my animal attack month. And asked him to be on the show talking about Razorback. And then last week, I look at my podcast app and Danny has done an episode on Razorback. And had forgotten that I had asked him to do this. So we're counting your episode as the warm-up.
I've dialed back my drinking lately, so if you ask me stuff now, I'll actually remember it when
you might remember it. I did listen to your episode, and it's terrific. You always do such a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll try to bring up some fresh points now.
Yeah, after you listen to this, go check out his episode and check out Danny's entire show, Creepy Crap Podcast. It really is enjoyable. And they're quick listens too. You keep them 20, 25 minutes. You keep them tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to keep it under 30 minutes, except for if I have a guest episode, which I apparently ramble a ton more than I do as a guest. So that I had one guest episode. Sorry, you didn't get to bust that cherry for me. But I cut probably an hour of me talking because it was just, if no one chimed in, I would just talk for like, I would answer. It'd be literally, have you seen the movie? Like I did then. Instead of saying yes or no, I would go, well, I have. But then I've technically seen this. And then I talked about some other movie and it would go like 6 minutes or something probably of audio before you chime back in. I was like, what? I was like, you're too kind. Why did you let me do that? So shit. So I cut it down to me like asking a question or answering it. And that was it. But it was about an hour of audio I cut out of it.
Yeah, my episodes sometimes are an hour and a half. Last week's was almost 3 hours, but that 3 hour episode was actually 3.5 hours, and I cut it down to be just under 3.
Yeah, nice.
At
least if it's quality, it's not so bad.
Well, that was the thing. I was worried when the first time I had an episode that was over 2 hours, I was really concerned. And then I talked to a couple people and they said, listen, like, if it's a long form like a long format podcast, no one's going to listen to it straight through, right? You listen while you're doing the dishes and then you put it down. And then when you're on your way to work, you turn it back on. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I do it. And so I was encouraged, like, if it's good, keep it. And if it's not, cut it. So that's where we're at. But I promise not to keep you for 3 hours today. Because I know you're not feeling great.
It'd be good if we go twice the length of the actual movie.
Yeah, exactly. Which has happened. All right, so Razorback. I will all right, wait. I've been practicing. Rise a beak. Did I do it? Did it sound right?
I think if it was in New Zealand, but
oh man, damn it! As an actor, I'm the worst at accents and dialects.
That sounded exactly like a New Zealand accent, though.
Okay, well,
like they were like Razorback or something like that. Like Razor, like they don't do like a hard A, like Razor.
I was so excited.
Like, Razor.
I was really proud of myself. I did today.
Wait, do it again, and I'll say.
I wore my Rocco's Modern Life T-shirt because Rocco is a wallaby from Australia. Just for you. Yeah.
I have my 8 Mile jacket on, so it representing Detroit.
You look so tough today. You look representing Detroit. All right. Well, that's enough of me embarrassing myself with my Australian fawning over.
You can do it again, and I'll say it's really good. How's that?
Nope. Don't worry. It's too late. You've ruined it for me.
I think my thing's repeating. It sounds like my voice. No.
Razorback is a film based on a novel. So the producer of this film, Razorback, the producer of this film obviously saw Jaws and realized, hey, Jaws was based on a novel and it was a big success. And he came across the book Razorback and realized it had some potential to also be kind of one of many follow-ups that would imitate Jaws, right? We are directed by Russell Mulcahy, who before this had done almost strictly music videos. He did a ton of Duran Duran. He directed Video Killed the Radio Star. So he directed the first video on MTV, which is pretty cool. Wow. I literally just read today, MTV News is officially like 86, like no more MTV News, which frankly, I thought that show was canceled like years ago. I didn't realize it was still going because they don't like MTV.
It's still here?
It's garbage now, right? Like, when's the last time you watched MTV?
I almost have never watched it. I've never had cable, so I never see it.
Oh, that's right, because you're not a Nielsen family. I forgot.
No.
All right.
Just never had it growing up either. Like, I mean, like if you had cable, we had it, but never had it. So that means very little to me, but
Well,
rest in peace and stuff like that.
yeah, it is what
I
it
didn't know
is.
that about the director though. I didn't even look that up. So
Yeah. So he's a
interesting.
really interesting fellow. He would go on to direct Highlander
Really?
and Highlander 2. So now knowing that, you can see a lot of the similarities. He's got a very specific style, right? And Razorback is really known for atmosphere and just being beautifully shot. I think Razorback is like a not great movie that looks really beautiful. Like he took
Yeah.
something that isn't that like there's not a lot to the story, and the story is kind of messy, but
He literally uses the environment as the background. Like there's shots where the guy's just there with like a red moon in the background, and like none of that's fake. It's just like the shot of the outback. Everything's so much bigger and clearer. It's like you don't need to make anything look better. It's just naturally there.
yeah, a lot of that came from Dean Semler, who was the cinematographer. He also was a cinematographer on the Road Warrior, the Mad Max movie.
Oh yeah.
So they
Really?
actually used a lot of the locations for the Road Warrior. Again, in Razorback, they just shot them from different angles or in different area, places.
Yeah, I could imagine that. And that vehicle looks 100% out of that. And those two guys look like they just came from the set of Mad Max, the
Right.
brothers.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Their cars, like there are Mad Max vehicles in this movie, and they
Yeah.
absolutely are dressed borderline post-apocalyptic. Like
Yeah.
especially the one brother, Dicko, he looks
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
They do
special,
not reflect the country.
right? Special effects were also done by Chris Murray, who also worked on Mad Max. So we get this really interesting team of really cool visual creators, right? Mad Max has
Yeah.
such a style, especially like the difference between Mad Max to the Road Warrior to like Thunderdome, this progression of getting more and more kind of bizarre and post-apocalyptic. I think
Yeah.
it's really cool to see that influence in Razorback.
Did you see that fact that Stephen King rang him to ask how he did the hallucination scene?
I didn't read that one, but I did read that Steven Spielberg called him
What did I say, Stephen
King.
King? Yeah, no, they both called. It was a they Skyped, they both had it. It was a two-way chat. No. Yeah, I met Spielberg.
I will say the scene where Beth gets attacked in the car was giving me some Cujo vibes anyway. So
Yeah. Someone needs to learn how to react to shock, I think.
during the hallucination scene where there are two moons in the background and they had created, this really cool looking visual effect. This is all before CGI. Literally everything is practical and in camera,
Yeah.
of two moons. And Steven Spielberg called up and was like, "Hey, I saw the movie. I really liked it," which is cool considering that Steven Spielberg made Jaws, which is the movie that kind of is the reason Razorback exists. And he asked, "How did you do this?" When he talked to the director and was given the name Dean Semler, the director of photography, Steven Spielberg actually ended up introducing him to Kevin Costner, who then put him on Dances with Wolves, and Semler ended up winning an Oscar for that movie. So, like,
Wow.
yeah, kind of cool.
Jeez, it's like a springboard, this movie, for all these people.
Yeah. Well, we have a pretty interesting cast in this. We have Gregory Harrison as Carl Winters. Jeff Bridges was actually, that's who the director wanted, and the studio didn't want Jeff Bridges because they didn't think that he was a big enough, like he didn't have star potential, which is so interesting because he ended up being a star.
Yeah. Chose the wrong one on that one.
Yeah. Archie Waitley plays Sarah. So she was in the Road Warriors as well. So she
Yeah, I
got brought
looked her
on.
up because I thought she was in Body Melt, but she wasn't. But then I saw everything else she's in. I was like, damn.
Yeah, she had a lot of work. Now she died at like 36 years old in 2001 of
Adrenal
cancer.
cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
really
literally just looked that up a little while ago. I was like, oh,
really sad.
it's a bummer.
I watched a video of the cast and crew of this movie just talking about working with her, and it kind of was gross because it was all of the men kept saying she was beautiful, she was young, she was tiny and cute, and she was really sexy. And it's like, that's what you have to say about her, you know?
Yeah.
And then the woman who played Beth in this movie, Judy Morris, she had a lot more interesting things to say about her. But all right, so Bill Kerr plays Jake Cullen. Chris Haywood plays the brother Benny Baker, and David Argue is Dickie Baker. And then we have Judy Morris as Beth Winters. And those are our most notable cast members.
The guy at the beginning's actually quite famous in shows, but like the one who was a cameraman,
Yeah.
the John Howard guy, because John Howard was literally a prime minister in our country, not him, but same name. But yeah, he's been in like TV shows forever. That guy, he was only in it for like 2 seconds, but very small part. But yeah, that's literally the whole cast then.
Yeah, he has cameos in, I guess, a lot of like quote Ozploitation movies, is what I read. I don't know who he is, but are any of the other actors like notable Australian icons?
Not really.
No.
None of them almost look familiar at all. Like the old guy looks like someone who looked familiar, but I can't remember him in shit.
Got it.
Literally, that cameraman was the only familiar face I remember from that whole movie. I've never seen anyone else in anything else. So, yeah, considering like some of these people had like big careers, it was never in anything too Australian that I can think of, at least.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. Just
the-
nothing I've seen.
I think the bigger names were on the production side of this movie for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Well, why don't we get into the plot of Razorback? Let's go Rick retreating.
Let's get it done.
All right, so movie opens. Jake Cullen is tucking in his grandson, and there's a fire in the fireplace. And right from the start, this movie's gorgeous looking. The use of light and shadow and silhouette and long, like gorgeous horizons with like setting suns, where it's just like kind of orange across the horizon and dark above. It really makes the outback look gorgeous.
There's a scene where it looks like they're shooting fireworks in the air. I have no idea what that is.
That's during the hallucination moment, though, right?
Oh, I thought it was. Oh, yeah, it could be. I thought it was. Yeah, he was walking around because I was like, "What the fuck is that?" I've never seen that before. Like, I could get a shooting star, but I've never seen like random bursts of light go up, like flares or something.
And there are a couple shooting stars throughout the movie, which I guess if I think about it, in the outback, there's no light around, so you would probably see lots of shooting stars out there, right?
I've never actually been out there, but yeah, it's so much more open. You see like everything. So that stuff would be a lot clearer than it would be in like smoggy cities or anything like that. But I was like, is that something they do there? I was so curious by that. But yeah, again, if it was hallucination, it's probably not real, but that was the only part of the landscape I wanted to point out. Cool.
Well, this movie paints a really interesting picture of the outback. I mean, it's kind of an internet joke that everything in Australia is trying to kill you. And
this doesn't help.
It's, Danny, are you trying to kill me? He's holding up a fake knife.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had a real one. That would have been cooler. Weird that I was holding it already, though.
I think, I've never been to the Outback. This movie does a great job of introducing it quickly and showcasing. It just makes it this like unbelievable place. And I think that, like we mentioned, the upcoming hallucination scene flows so seamlessly into the rest of the movie. That is, in my opinion, kind of the sequence that ties the visual whimsy of this movie together.
And this movie's not too over the top like other Aussie movies where they make it like real crazy. Like that pub would be pretty accurate, and having a camel outside isn't crazy. Like I'm pretty sure there's a fact where Australia either has the most or second amount of camels in the world.
So I never realized that there were fucking camels in Australia.
Yeah.
Are they native to...
I think they ship them to Egypt and shit.
That's insane.
Like in the outback and stuff. But yeah, they have like races and stuff.
That's insane. I had no idea. They give the camel some beer at one point.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. All right. So Jake he's an older man. He is a kangaroo hunter, and he's got a reputation. Like he's known. But we don't find that out until a moment later, because this peaceful, beautiful scene is interrupted by a fucking insane Razorback bursting through his house. So they made multiple animatronics for this Razorback, and they also made this elaborate costume that they put on a real boar.
Yeah, I read that.
For distant shots, and that actually looks surprisingly good.
Yeah.
It's mostly in silhouette at that point, but it looks great. But one of the animatronics that they used for this was actually made so that it could be shot out of a cannon to bust through the house. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a moment where you just see something move through the walls real fast, and it was literally an animatronic boar that was bust through a cannon. They also made one that was made for battering, and that's pretty much just the head attached to like a mechanical hammer that would then slam into walls and
Oh,
doors so it would bust through. And then they had a
yeah.
couple of them that were full bodies.
Yeah, wow. See, that's a good thing. We're doing it again. I learned so much more.
Yeah, well, Russell Mulcahy, the director, he specifically didn't want to show the Razorback almost at all. And, to kind of keep in line with Jaws, which hardly shows the shark, but the studio really pressured him into showcasing the Razorback more. They spent $250,000 on the main animatronic, and so they really wanted him to use it.
Yeah, like
I
less
think,
is more with creatures usually.
well, I think it's shot in a way that there's a lot of camera shaking and extreme close up. I think what you see looks really good.
Yeah.
It's an impressive beast.
Yeah, it doesn't look corny at all. You don't see shit. Like what, like probably a minute worth of footage all up, maybe?
Yeah, it's real. It's
Not
real
much.
quick. It's only on screen for brief amounts of time. The thing is, there's a lot of shots of only its head, which I think gives it a little bit less of a believability. If there were more shots of the entire beast, it might. But this thing was the size of a rhinoceros. It's 5 times the size of a normal boar.
Yeah.
So the mobility of it, I think, was challenging at the time and with the budget that they were working with. Have you ever seen a wild boar? Is that a thing where you live?
No.
No.
No, I hear people like country people, that's not really my thing, but they're like, we're going pigging. Like pigging, I think, is killing those sort of things and hunting them and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I remember people having like armor for their dogs. So because pretty much if their dogs attack them before they can shoot them, and yeah, they get one of those tusks in them, the dog's gone.
Yeah, they're
like,
real.
Shoot something easier.
They're fucking scary. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and there are javelinas there, which are not nearly as big as this creature, but they'll fuck
Are
you
they
up.
pigs?
They'll charge you. Yeah, pigs, and they'll fuck you
Okay.
up. I remember I was in rehearsal for a show once, and we came out of the theater, and there was like a pack of javelinas in the parking lot, and we had to wait until they left before we could go to our cars.
Fucking hell. I've never even heard of that. It sounds like a pig, like hyena and something else.
They're
Definitely not Googling it now.
definitely not googly right now. They'll mess you up. They're not super huge, but they're you don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I love hearing about new creatures.
So going pigging, and going
Oh yeah, they look cool.
Shooting kangaroos is kind of a population control thing as well. So the Baz Luhrmann movie Australia with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman is not a great movie, but I think the best part of the movie is when Nicole Kidman first arrives in Australia and she's riding with these poachers in a vehicle and she sees a kangaroo hopping past, and she's from England and she's so excited and she's saying, "Oh, I've never seen a kangaroo before. Oh, look, it's a kangaroo."
Oh, they're kangaroos.
Big reds.
Oh, lovely. Beautiful. I've never seen a kangaroo. Beautiful jumping.
They're jumping.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, look at them jumping.
And then someone shoots it and she screams. Why? Yeah, that movie ended and I thought it was over, and then a whole nother plot started to develop. I was like, oh
yeah.
Like
I remember falling asleep in that. I have not watched the full thing of that before.
When they got to wherever they were going with the cattle, I thought the movie was over, and then it wasn't. And I don't think I finished the movie.
It's like the first part of Lord of the Rings. So we got there. Oh no, that's only the first two. We're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. I saw Nicole Kidman see a kangaroo, and I saw Hugh Jackman pour water over his shirtless body. That's all I needed to see.
Yeah. That's what we all look like. So
all right, so this boar has taken Jake's grandson, like 2 years old, literally gone. And so Jake crawls out of his house.
The boar stole my baby.
Well, that was the thing. This it's speculated that this was, and I had the same thought, inspired by the death of Azaria Chamberlain, the little girl.
Too soon.
Very soon after. So her mother, Azaria, went missing while they were camping, and her mother claimed that a dingo stole her baby, which is a very sad story.
You can say it if you want. I feel like
The dingo took my baby.
What?
people don't say it unless they use the dingo stole my baby.
Yeah, well, because Meryl Streep played her in the movie Cry in the Dark. I think it was Sam Neill in that movie also.
I think it's something I had to watch at school, to be honest.
Very famous. It's become camp, unfortunately. Line of Meryl Streep running around screaming, "A dingo stole my baby," and it's real sad. But so the woman,
no, I think because it came a catchphrase, it's like it took the sadness of the tragedy away, and it just became like the dingo got my baby, and it's like
The dingo took my baby!
I don't know. There's no musicals to that bit.
that mother was acquitted. She was charged, like she was accused of murdering the baby, and she, her excuse was that the dingo took it, and no one ever found her. There wasn't enough evidence, so she was acquitted. The same thing happens in this movie. There's a moment where Jake is like he falls to his knees. He's crawled out of his house is burning because there was a fire in the fireplace, and it's this great epic shot of his blazing home behind him, and he just falls to his knees.
Instantly catches a fire.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. It's a little too quick, but it looks cool. Screaming in agony, and then we get the title card, Razorback.
Yeah.
And we cut to a trial scene with everyone in this little small outback town talking about how, we think he killed this kid and there's not enough evidence for that. And he's claiming that it was a massive bore.
Kangaroo court. No, I just thought that's an expression. It was like letting the town people just join in. Like, can the judge and the lawyers do this?
Well, there doesn't seem to be a lot of order because it's a small town. Everyone's there. Everybody knows each other. This guy's reputation is shot. Even his daughter.
Yeah. Where's the ball? I saw no ball.
Yeah, his daughter even turns her back on him. So his reputation is ruined. The town agrees that maybe he didn't do it, maybe he did, but he now has a mission in life, and that is to kill this fucking Razorback.
And leave it at the pub so they believe me.
Yeah, he wants it on display. So we cut to 2 years later, and now we're in New York City, and we meet an American reporter. Her name is Beth, with her husband, Carl. And she is a wildlife rights activist, animal rights activist, and she's an investigative journalist. And we see on the news that she's just had a run-in with a man that he's been doing illegal animal killing activity. And she has this opportunity to go to Australia to investigate people who are killing an excessive amount of kangaroos. There's one thing for population control. And here's my disclaimer, everybody. I don't know anything about the ecology of population control or, killing deer to keep them from being too many or anything like that. And I certainly don't know anything about kangaroos. So that's my disclaimer.
Turn it off.
What do you say? Turn it off.
Turn it off. You've been a fraud this whole time.
It turns out she'll be gone for their anniversary, which is super, sad.
Yeah, I was confused by that. Did he propose and then she left and then he's like, Carl Weathers, you remember the last name? And I'm like, when did you get married?
I think the ring is just an anniversary gift. I think they've been married. Yeah. So the ring is just an anniversary gift. And Carl encourages her. They have this really cute moment. It's literally their only scene together in the movie.
Yeah.
But, it's pretty well done. So the exterior shots of New York were done actually in New York. And then their apartment was in Sydney, like a set in Sydney.
Well, that connects us pretty well then. It's like both of our hometowns.
Oh, you're right. Look at that.
Sort of.
So are you going to give me a ring anytime soon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Can't think of anything funny.
So she goes to
I have a boner. No.
Oh, that kind of ring.
No. Cock ring.
She goes to Australia and she does not ease herself gently into the local culture of this outback town.
She did not learn a lesson from the first time, I don't think.
No, she pretty instantly pisses everybody off. She walks into the pub where everybody's drinking, and it kind of reminded me, there's an episode of Murder, She Wrote, where Jessica Fletcher, Angela Lansbury, walks into a pub in Australia and everyone it's like walking into the doors of a saloon in an old Western. Like everyone stops what they're doing and stares at her, which I have had happen to me.
Oh, really?
You walk into certain bars in certain parts of the country and I'm clearly
skip the record.
Skip the record and everything. You just get stared down if you're gay or if you're dressed like borderline goth, as I'm always borderline goth, and you just don't look like everybody. Man, I walked into a Walmart in Arkansas once, and I thought I was gonna get hate crimed. It was like,
Wow.
it was really scary, honestly.
Yeah, that's heaps bad.
When we drove through North Texas, we turned on local radio, and we had to turn off the radio and decided not to stop literally anywhere because it was fucking terrifying.
Jeez.
Yeah. You know,
What you doing here, boy?
not everybody in those parts of the country are terrible, but unfortunately the ones who are really bad. But anyway, so she instantly starts attacking people with this camera and saying, "Are you killing kangaroos?" She's filming like the beginning of her expose, talking about how somewhere in this area people are I think 800,000 kangaroos have been reported.
Yeah, it was
killed.
a ridiculous amount of numbers. Buy them some beers first. She could have easily won them over, I think.
That's true. Well, she's too late with the beers. She's already pissed everybody off. She does bring a couple people beers later, but I think they're working for her anyway. So what she is talking about how these kangaroos are being illegally poached and then turned into pet food at some undisclosed slaughterhouse. I think she uses the word like these kangaroos are being turned into what is inevitably cat and dog excretion on the streets.
Yeah, I'm like, do you mean food?
Right. You're skipping a step where they ingest it, going straight from the dog poop. So anyway, she's pissed everybody. Pissed everybody off, and she specifically pisses off these two guys, the Baker brothers, who they were at the trial 2 years earlier, and these guys are fucking insane.
Still wearing the tuxedo.
They're as you mentioned before, they're borderline like, and I think they get more and more post-apocalyptic looking as the film goes on, right?
Yeah.
But they do drive this massive, insane, big vehicle that looks straight out of Mad Max.
Yeah.
With a spotlight on top of it. So she ends up following them and recording them slaughtering these kangaroos. Now, the kangaroo carcasses in this film were actually real sheep carcasses that were then kind of sliced up to look more like a kangaroo. And particularly in the film's finale, they smelled awful. They were put on ice overnight and they were hosed down with like a deodorant spray, but it wasn't enough. You're in Australia where it's hot. You're under these hot film lights. So apparently it reeked, which kind of reminded me of the dinner scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They had real rotting meat on the table there, and they were filming for days, and the meat just kept getting more and more rancid. And
yuck. And he stick like shit as well. Isn't that the other thing? Like his outfit was just like putrid or something like that.
Yeah, they're just a couple of really gross guys running this operation.
How's his laugh?
So here's the thing, like I think he's my favorite performance in this film. He's disgusting and scary and unhinged, you know. So basically Dicko is the really, really crazy unhinged one, and then his brother Benny is, you say it on your podcast, he kind of sees it happening, sees Dicko's behavior and doesn't do anything about it, but he lets it go.
Yeah, he enables it. But yeah, Benny's laugh is like so strange. He's just like he's a goat or something. He does it for half of the movie. You're like, what are you doing?
I think it's
he just does it all the time.
The guy who plays Dicko, so he was driving the director insane. He showed up on set one day and he had shaved a patch in the back of his head and said, my character has ringworm. And I guess he got kicked out of the motel that the cast was staying at as well, because he was just too fucking weird for them.
Oh yeah, he's been method or something, right?
Yeah. They see her filming and come for her. He like rips the lens off of her camera. She runs away, jumps in her car. She kind of laughs at them as she drives away.
Yeah, she taunts them when she runs off.
Yeah, which just makes things worse because when sun goes down, she's still driving and they come for her in their Mad Max car. And it's like a group of kangaroo killers. Is there like a name? Poachers, I guess?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what they've probably got like a better name, something like that. Probably poachers, something like that.
So
I know cars do have those, like that car's ridiculous. Like that's Mad Maxy for sure, but some do have like bull bar, like kind of what trains have.
Right. Like a cattle guard. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that thing's just crazy.
I think there's like barbed wire on the top and it's just a lot. So there's a car chase and they ram her off the road. It's pretty vicious. It's very well filmed. I mean, it's giving Mad
Yeah.
Max vibes. She's rammed off the road, and the scene gets.
Like the
Here's
Road
the thing
Warriors.
about this movie. This movie is a lot more mean spirited than I remembered it being. There's no humor in this film. Nothing happy happens. It's a mean spirited film throughout.
Yeah.
And Dicko drags her out of the car by her hair and begins to sexually assault her at the encouragement of all of the other men. And before before it happens, the Razorback rams into their car and everyone starts yelling and they say, "We got to get out of here." They all jump into their Mad Max vehicle and drive off, leaving her alone.
Yeah.
She dives into her car, and this is a scene that was cut down. There were 3 sequences that were cut down dramatically because they were too violent for the outcome of the film.
Okay. What were they?
So this is the first one. I looked them up. You can watch them on YouTube. The Razorback comes for her and busts into her car and drags her out, and that's kind of all that we see. The cut scene shows her struggling more. The thing is, it's not super gory. It's just very upsetting to see her, especially after what has just happened to her, try to crawl out of the windshield.
Worse.
Yeah, and she's unable to make it. And so we don't see as much happening with this. It's more like the tone of the sequence, I think, than the actual gore.
I thought it was a bit weird. She just stares at it as well. It's like, do you know how to look scared? But I guess maybe that was shock. You know when she first sees it?
Yeah. It's like a moment where she just stares it down and then starts screaming as it starts busting through the door. Yeah. It's really effective. It's really sad. There's it's just weird, and it's very sudden, and you think that she is going to be the lead of the film, and then suddenly she's not.
Oh, I know. That's the mislead, hey, because I'm like, it's fucking 20 minutes into the movie. I'm like, or less. It's like, this is grim. I'm like, who's taking over now?
Yeah. And I guess part of me thought she might come back. Not until later did I realize that she was definitely a goner.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, like she pops up later and she's kind of all like comes back like tough. Like she's like, I've survived the outback. I know how to handle these things now. Like she shows up at the last minute to kill it and then gets back with her husband or something.
Maybe. Well, her husband does come to Australia looking for her because he hasn't heard from her. Gets to town. He rides a bus to this bus stop where someone just gives him his car. Is that a thing?
Yeah. I don't know. He's very trusting.
Yeah, I guess. He asks, is there a taxi to get to this small town? And the guy laughs and says, I haven't seen a taxi since 1956 and it was lost. You better take my car. And he just hands over the keys.
Yeah, because you think he's kind of like stirring him up, but he's just like, no, there you go.
Yeah.
I left. Like, it just does, like, be careful with it. Fill it up before you bring it back. I'm like, oh, he's pretty kind.
That's kind. I don't know if this guy ever got his car back.
Yeah.
We never see him again. So Carl gets in the car, but he gets in on the left side, like an American car would be. And it's a quick little, and he scoots over to the right. He has some trouble steering, has to figure out how to drive on the right side of a car, which is...
That joke makes sense now when he yells out, it's like, left side!
Yeah, that might be the only bit of humor in the entire film. He makes it, and heads to the pub, asking around. Now, he's under a different name. He's not giving them his name and his last name because he doesn't want them to associate him with Beth.
He played that well.
Yeah, because it's known that they would hate Beth. She's an animal rights activist. She's trying to shut down their livelihood, right? Mm. Makes buddies with the Baker brothers, who take him on an excursion.
Yeah.
They're drinking. They're hanging out in this Mad Max car. They drive past a farm, and the Baker brothers talk about this woman who lives there named Sarah. And they make some vulgar comments implying that she's,
Yeah, it's like, if you want a good time, go there.
Yeah, they're really
And then
disgusting.
it's like implied that they haven't done that, though. And you're like, make your mind up.
Yeah,
like, we tried and she said, fuck off, so...
Exactly.
Maybe you'll have a crack, I don't know. I feel like they're being nice to him at first. That's how I took it. Like, they were kind of like testing him out, like, we got a new guy to hang out with. And then, like, progressively over time, they keep testing him out and he doesn't seem to win them over. But
yeah, well,
I didn't feel like they were fucking with him at first.
He tells them he's Canadian and that, that he hunts deer.
I never picked up on that lie.
Yeah, he tells them he's
from New York.
Canadian. They say, do you do any hunting? And he says he hunts deer. And so they are going to take him hunting. And so they're going rooing. And night has fallen. And they tell him, you use the spotlight because the kangaroo will get
Yeah, they get stunned or something.
mesmerized.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get mesmerized and stare into it. And then that gives you time to go in. And one of them shoots a kangaroo. Now, it's really interesting. The violence against the animals. The director specifically is very not hurting. He did not want to hurt any animals. So there's a scene where a pig falls down. He used a tripwire to just kind of tip it over.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I wondered about that as well. Because there's other ones around this time that do not hold back. They're there's one called Dead at Night or fucking, I can't remember what it is. Something fried or whatever. And yeah, they go hunting as well. They take a guy out and they just shoot them. It's a sequence for 10 minutes. It's controversial as hell because it's just shooting kangaroos, footage of probably 10 minutes straight of them just shooting kangaroos and hitting them with cars. And
oh my God,
it's fucked.
I haven't seen that. I mean, you think of Cannibal Holocaust where they kill real animals in that movie as well.
It's Waking Fright. That's the thing.
Waking Fright. I've not heard of that. It's Australian.
Yeah, they take an American out and basically sort of thing. But yeah, it's 10 minutes of legit killing of kangaroos.
My God. Well, this film, the kangaroo is shot off screen. And it makes Carl
probably learn from that.
It makes Carl sick, and he actually starts throwing up. He a little bit gets on Dicko, which I think is hilarious.
Charming.
They throw him out of the car, and he says, "You guys didn't kill it. The thing is still alive." And they say, "Yeah, if we kill it, the meat tenses up, and then you're kind of spoiling. It's easier. Yeah. It's easier to dissect if it's still alive." And he grabs a blade, a giant, almost like a machete, but more like an axe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a cleaver or something.
Yeah. And he
completely does the opposite of what he got told to do.
Yeah, he finishes it off and
dramatically as well.
It's a great fucking shot. It's just his silhouette. I can't express the cinematography in this film enough. Even if it's not a masterpiece, it is absolutely worth watching. It's absolutely beautiful to look at.
Yeah, hacks it up and then they're like, fuck you. But then they were nice enough. They were like, okay. He's like, don't leave here because if you go walkabouts, we're going to lose you. And they throw him a blanket and then he goes for another fucking sleep. Do you reckon he hallucinates? I know we're jumping ahead a bit, but is he hallucinating because he's gone an hour without sleeping?
He does sleep a lot. I'm going to blame jet lag.
Yeah.
I'm totally going to blame jet lag.
That's a good point.
Before they go away, they tell him, skin it, gut it. We'll be back in 5 or 6 hours. You fucked everything up. Were they going to come back for him? I guess. I don't know. It's a little bit of a shaky plot point for me. I think it's just an excuse to get him lost in the desert. He does not do what they tell him to and starts wandering around.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. He hears a boar or something when he's with the kangaroo because he wakes up from sleeping on it. And then he runs off, ends up at the windmill, sleeps at the top of it. And then once he comes out of there, that's when he starts, I don't know, he hallucinates after a day of being stranded, I guess.
Yeah, because he ties himself to the top of this shitty windmill to get away from these boars it's not the Razorback, but that are kind of, around surrounding him. And
it makes it sound like they all attack everyone.
Well, we learn later that there is an influx lately going on. It's not explained why. Yeah, but so while he's at the top of it, the boars are knocking into it and the windmill falls into a puddle of gross water. And he realizes, hey, fuck you guys.
That's our local pools, mate.
You can't swim, which I do believe pigs can. There are pigs who swim.
Yeah. I've seen diving pigs. They literally do that on shows.
Yeah.
They dive and have competitions and stuff.
There's a famous beach where these pigs swim from an island to the beach once a year as part of a migration or something. It's part of mating season.
Really?
Oh, it's really cool. You got to check it out. It's this beautiful beach. Pigs live on an island. They swim out to the beach. I think they fuck and then they go back to the island. Something like that. It's really cool. People travel from around the world to witness it happening.
The sex part?
The piggy sex. Sounds like fun to me.
Yes, swimming.
From this pool of gross water, begins to wander the desert, and it's cool. We ease into a hallucination dream sequence you know, where as I was watching it, I thought to myself, this has like a Salvador Dali feel to it. And then I read one of the reviews described the whole movie as Dali-esque, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, like he's the one who does that melting clock and
The
shit,
melting
right?
clocks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's 100% what that looks like with the big crack that I assume wasn't there.
No, it wasn't. They used a glass painting in front of the lens for that. There's like a massive crack
Fuck, that's clever.
crater, yeah, in the desert at one point. He's sitting down rapping. His feet are bloody and disgusting, and it's cool because you don't know, are they really that bad or is he hallucinating them? And
Yeah,
as
I
he's
thought that
doing
was
it,
quick.
the ground behind him starts to like something's rising up out of it. This was all shot practically. So this dream sequence, the director was told, we don't have time or money to do it. And the director decided, fuck you, I need this sequence. And so he took 2 days without telling the studio after the shooting was done and filmed this. And the guy who plays Carl is a body double because Carl was already gone. He had wrapped.
Oh, that's why he's always so far away in the distance.
Yeah, or just his bloody feet.
Yeah.
We have interesting color gradients. The skeleton of a horse rises from the ground.
How did they do the ground thing? That was what amazed me. I was like, Jesus, like getting solid dirt ground that's like compacted for so long to suddenly like burst out with nothing around it. Like that would be 100%
like dug a hole off camera and then made a tunnel like Bugs Bunny over to be in the shot.
Oh yeah,
and then rose from underneath it. Right. You know, it looks cool. He wanders, and
I could not get my head around that scene.
Yeah. Well, he does eventually. There's a moment, like we mentioned before, with two moons. Suddenly it's nighttime and he's still wandering, and there are two moons in the background, which is cool because you don't realize it until you do, you know?
I didn't notice it, to be honest.
Really? Yeah, that was
specific. Yeah, not so you said that, I was just going to be quiet about it.
Spielberg asked about that shot, they divulged that they made a prop moon to put in the background. And so that's the one that's orangey and lower to the ground. We see it again used brilliantly with Kyle, the hunter.
Yeah.
A little bit later. But so anyway.
Oh, that's what I talked about before. That's the moon you're talking about?
Yeah, but there.
I said there was a big bright moon. I was like,
yeah.
I just assumed it was natural.
No, that one was a prop. So he ends up being rescued. He wakes up in a bed, and it is at Sarah's farm. She's super kind, but there's a fake out where he sees her face, and then she turns around and she has the face of a pig. And it's a really good jump scare.
Oh, yeah.
It's really quick. They don't like focus on it. It's just real scary.
Was the documentary only about the naked topless scene for like 2 seconds? When you're like, every guy's like, oh, she was fucking beautiful.
Oh, well, so it's an interesting. So when he gets out of bed, oh no, wait. He comes upon her while she's showering outside.
Yeah, and then he faints, and then he wakes up in the bed.
And then he faints and wakes up in the bed. So interesting fact about this showering scene, the actress refused to do it initially and could not be talked into it. And so they hired a body double for her. And she said, well, I don't know about this. Let me look at this actress and see if I approve. And she literally said the woman had some cellulite problems in her hips and thighs. And so she didn't want the world to think that that's what her naked body looked like. So she got this body double fired, and she ended up doing the scene herself.
Wow. I misread that. I did see the cellulite thing, but I thought it was her. Oh, no, wow.
Yeah.
I learned so much talking to you.
So he runs into her while she's showering. He passes out. She puts him in the bed. And then when he wakes up, sees her, imagines the pig face. And then he slowly starts to come to as he gets more, he hydrates. He eats something.
It's scary as well, hey, because it hits you with like loud sounds. It's like, yeah. Like it's like the volume's just like turned right up at first because it's like, it's a shock and the sound. You're like, shit.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Really effective, Yeah,
you're like, ooh, Miss Piggy.
So we learned that Sarah she has a grant from the government to track pigs in the local area and kind of keep track of what's going on. She divulges that they have a lot of stress. She dissected one the week before, and it had a stress ulcer. And she said, this is unusual. They should not be this stressed out. Why? So they're acting more violently and they're stressed out. Well, in our heads, we start to figure out it's because this massive rhino-sized Razorback is running around, and so it's freaking all the rest of the pigs out and causing them to miss.
Alpha dogging them.
Yeah, right. We cut over to Jake, the hunter, the guy who lost his grandson. He,
Rest in peace.
To me, is a little bit of a mix. He reminds me of like Muldoon from Jurassic Park, the Velociraptor expert.
Yeah.
He's got like that vibe.
With a heart.
Yeah. And so he is, hellbent on finding this Razorback, comes across this pit with like bones and mud, and he's searching around, and in some pig shit, basically, he finds Beth's ring that was given to her.
Yeah. I think that's the same watering hole, is it?
That
he fell into earlier?
I got that sense. Yeah, it's just the water has kind of cleared out at this point.
Yeah.
Like dried up.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that is. Like, it's like a shed for pumping water, but yuck. Who would drink that shit?
So gross. So
chocolate milk, isn't it?
He brings it over to Sarah's. He meets Carl, and he gives Carl the ring, and Carl has to embrace that his wife has been eaten by a giant, oversized wild boar.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. She's gone. So Benny and Dicko overhear a conversation on the radio. Jake is saying he knows what happens to Beth. Now, Jake knows that a pig ate her.
Yeah.
Benny and Dicko think that they were involved. So they come for him, and it's Benny's cornering him and talking to him. And then from behind, Dicko comes in and whacks him on the head and knocks him out.
Yeah.
And Benny's like, why did you do that? Now you've ruined it. Now when he wakes up, he's going to know that we did this, and it's going to incriminate us. Right.
Yeah. He eggs him on in that scene, which is like, he's kind of like, just do it. Just fucking do it. And then the brother's like, oh, I don't know, something about like, just finish him off or do something. And then that's when he's like, oh, and then he hits him. And you're like, I feel like it looked like he wasn't going to do it if the brother didn't yell out to him.
Right. Totally.
Anytime he's encouraging him to do something shit.
Yeah. And so they decide, so Jake is knocked out, and they decide, well, we're just going to bust his legs, and then he can't tell anybody. So instead of killing him, they bust his legs with bolt cutters. And
they killed two dogs as well. Is that right?
Well, when Jake wakes up, his dog Spider is like checking on him, and it's like talking to Lassie, like, go get some help, Lassie.
Yeah.
Because he tells Spider, go get Sarah. Like, go tell, which I looked at my cat and thought, would he help me if I were in trouble? And the answer is a resounding no. He'd probably wait around and eat my eyeballs as soon as I die.
Yeah. Motherfucker, you're my food now.
That is how I imagine myself going, is dying alone in an apartment when I'm old and gray and my cat's just eating my body.
Circle of life.
Circle of life. It'll sustain them, and then they'll move on, and in some weird, sad way.
Yeah, they'll lay babies in you, and then those babies will eat more of your corpse, and then eat the mum. And I don't know how cats work. Probably not like that.
Not like that, Danny. That was too much.
I don't get how cats work. No.
It tells the dog.
They lay eggs in other people, right?
No.
I know. That... Just to be clear, I know they don't lay eggs.
Okay. So he sends the dog for help. And as soon as the dog is gone, he crawls into this water pump shed, drinks some of the water that it's producing, and lays against the wall. And the Razorback comes for him, and it busts through. And it's such a well shot scene. It gets him. But this is one of the scenes that was cut. There was a really vicious mauling sequence. And
what are they cut all these scenes for?
It because producers and censors just said that it was too much. It rips his face off.
Oh, really nice.
Bites his face and pulls it off. And it's a lot. Here's my thing, is that I don't mind the gore. I also don't know that this movie needs it.
Yeah, I guess
cool to see more. Yeah, like it's cool to see more of the Razorback.
More palatable if they don't have incredible gory scenes.
Well, and a little bit like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you never see somebody get hit with a chainsaw. It cuts away right before, and it's your imagination that makes that movie a lot gorier than it is. There's probably like a gallon of blood max in that movie, maybe,
Yeah, it's not too
And I
bad. You
think
know what?
that
Oh, sorry. Okay.
go for it.
Oh no, I was gonna say, you know what it felt like with that scene? It when he was like he uses a chain and digs himself through the mud, and the other pigs are there, and then he sort of sits up his back against the wall, and he's like, "Oh no!" It reminded me 100% of Scar's death, like spoiler in The Lion King, of like the hyenas did it, and then like they all sort of start leaning up and coming up against him, and he's like, "No, I didn't. I've been good." And then they're like, "Oh, yes," and they just start fucking swarming in, but like the fucking ball does the final job. I felt like it's like he's been shooting these things for so long, he fucking hates them, and then they finally turn on him.
That's
I don't know. I got a lot of weird Disney references in this. I don't know why. I
Well,
should stop listening to it so much.
Pumbaa, and that's a good point, because while this guy does have a heart, and you are kind of he's on this revenge path that you can understand, he is also killing a bunch of animals.
Yeah, the pigs aren't going to be like, "Oh, that's cool that you kill my family. Sorry about one person doing something." Like, do we deserve everything?
Yeah.
Not cool, man.
It is a kind of it's a hard-hitting scene, because he's not someone that I expected to die either.
No. Like
And
Games
such
of
a
Thrones and Walking Dead, how they just surprise you with a fucking death. And you're like,
yeah.
What?
And in such a like brutal, mean way. Like I said before, this movie is harsh. It's cold. Like there's a coldness to this story.
Yeah. They're just like,
And
I gotta knock off all our main people.
It's upsetting.
Yeah, make you feel bad for him and then just knock him off.
Sarah has dropped Carl off at the bus stop, right? Carl's like, my wife is dead. I need to go home. When she drops him off at the bus stop, there's a quick peck on the lips. Yeah. Which I guess they're planting the seed of them being attracted to each other, but like, bro, your wife isn't even like, the body's not even cold yet. Well,
yeah, I guess it's kind of swapping it out by the look of it. Lose one, gain one. So.
Lose one, gain one.
Have you got Farmer Wants a Wife over there?
Have what? What's that?
There's a show called Farmer Wants a Wife, where like these farmers are like, "Oh, I live on a farm. I do all this shit on my own. It'd be nice to meet a lady." And then it's kind of like The Bachelor, how like a bunch of girls start trying to like, kind of like Married at First Sight or whatever, if you have that as well. But it's like a bunch of girls try to win over one of the guys so they can marry them and win a farmer sort of thing. No, that's what I kind of felt that was gonna like, he's doing the reverse. She's the farmer though, like farmer wants a husband,
bringing in a bachelor.
Yeah, he's like,
do you watch?
Oh no,
do you watch that show?
No, that's the most I can describe it to
you. I'm not a reality TV guy, especially.
Neither.
I got lost in Love Island once. And
oh yeah,
I had to pull myself out of that black hole. It's gross. I don't know. This is.
I was gonna say it's probably not the first
time. This is why writers don't get paid enough, because there's other forms of crappy entertainment out there for people to watch.
Knock out cheap shit, and people are like, we don't even need to write it. It writes itself.
Exactly.
Give them drinks and set them in a such situation. So I guess Sarah, I really don't watch any reality stuff.
I don't either, and I don't think I ever have. I would watch like The Real World and Road Rules back in the day, but you didn't have MTV, so you don't know what I'm talking about.
I know what The Real World is, only because I always see it like parodied, whatever the fuck that word is. But I don't know what was the other one? Road Rules.
Road Rules. It was basically The Real World, but they were on road trips.
Oh right.
Yeah, like in a giant trailer.
That's cool. And I remember one that was called Next.
The dating show. Oh, that was a mean show too.
Yeah, I know. Like they see him straight away. They come out, "Hey, I'm Jimmy, and I'm fucking blah blah blah," and they come out like, "Nope." And you're like, "Well, that's good for my ego. Thanks."
Seriously,
can you run me over with the bus
show? That's the show where I learned the term butterface. Like she's hot, butterface.
Yeah.
It's real mean. I speaking of Road Rules, I hooked up with someone who was on that show, but I cannot remember his name to save my life.
Oh, that's a nice little claim to fame.
That's my story. That's my tie to MTV.
Would you like an Australian? Oh, sorry.
Road Rules might have been on VH1. Now that I think about it, I don't remember. But then they had the Real World Road Rules like collaborations. It's all a blur.
Would you like the Australian butterface term?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have it there. I don't know if it works the same, but like if you say she's a prawn or guy, I guess. Why? Because like prawn, you rip the head off, but you eat, like the body's good.
Oh my God.
Like that's kind of like the same thing. Like, she's good apart from the head.
Wow. That's fucked up.
Or guy. Either way.
Or guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's it. A food. I guess it's both food, isn't it? Yeah.
Butter and prawn. Prawns are good in butter also.
Yeah. You can be like, next time you see a guy, like he's got a 6-pack, but his face is bad. You'd be like, oh, he's a prawn.
He's a prawn.
Don't say it to him. Obviously, it's not going to go down well.
No, it would not.
Or him. But
he won't go down. All right. So
get me back on track. The dog has been
sent for Sarah. She drives away from the bus stop. And we also see the Baker brothers driving on their insane Mad Max vehicle. They're singing Ease On Down the Road from The Wiz.
Is that what the...
Yeah, it's from The Wiz.
Oh, nice.
And they see Spider, the dog, running, and Dicko runs over the dog. And his brother Brenny says, why did you do that? And Dicko has this moment. I think it's an interesting character moment where he says, I don't know. I just wanted to. Like he's got this unhinged, violent nature, you know?
Yeah.
He's got this
he had no answer. He was just like, I don't just seem something to do, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because it makes you, if you were going to defend what they're doing to the kangaroos because it's their livelihood, it's clear now that he also just really likes killing animals.
Yeah.
If he just ran over this dog for no reason, if he just broke Jake's legs with the bolt cutters for,
Because Jake wakes up with the dog on him, but there's 2 dogs laying next to him. Like he had a whole, 4 dogs or something. Like when I saw it today, when I watched it again, I was like, oh, those fuckers killed the other dogs.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because I can't imagine they were just laying down, unless they were just sleeping next to him. But you feel like he sends one dog off because, why wouldn't he have sent the other dogs?
Right.
It's like, motherfuckers.
send all the dogs.
Yeah. Fly, my pretties.
Unless they've been killed.
We don't speak English. You don't know where you're sending us.
Yeah, that you got to really stretch your imagination for that to work. So Sarah's driving and she sees poor dead Spider in the road and starts to put things together. Comes back, picks up Carl and says, I need your help. So they find, basically Jake got a tracking device on the pig at some point with a dart gun. They find Jake in the water pump shed. And this was another thing that was cut. It was going to show his faceless head with bugs crawling all over it. And you can find that clip on YouTube as well.
Oh, man.
Instead, we get kind of their reaction to looking at it and her seeing that her friend, she's got this, she's written almost with like a daddy complex because she hangs out with this older man. They're not romantic. But then when she gives Carl some clothes, she sees him and looks down at his trousers and says,
yeah.
Oh,
that was weird.
I haven't seen a man in my dad's trousers since he died. Looks nice.
Yeah. What? Yeah, and she's like looking at him when he's in bed, like, that was my dad's bed. And like she's got this clear shot of where her dad sleeps every night. She's like, it's weird not sneaking in there.
So they also find marks in the dirt from Dicko's cleaver. And he puts 2 and 2 together because when he chopped up the kangaroo, when he finished off the kangaroo, he recognized the chops in the dirt from the same cleaver. So he puts 2 and 2 together, realizes Dicko and Benny had something to do with this.
And he's pissed.
Sarah goes to town and hits up the pub and is trying to round people up to be like, we got to kill this Razorback. It got Jake. Please, you got to believe me. This thing exists. And they do believe her.
Yeah, and, mob song.
She says, yeah, we have this tracker. We know where it is. So she gets the posse to follow her. And in the meantime, Carl goes to the illegal kangaroo meat animal food canning slaughterhouse facility.
Yeah.
And
He
runs
takes
into
on Benny
Benny.
first on the
Yeah,
way.
he takes on, and it's a good scene. This is where Carl steps up and becomes kind of a hero of the movie. Benny, he pushes him down into a mine shaft, and Benny is chasing him with a meat hook, right? Gets him in the leg at one point. It's a pretty cool chase scene over some cool terrain.
Yeah, I know.
Benny,
That's fucking weird, that ground.
yeah, with like kind of the holes all over it.
Yeah,
It's
like they
really
must just
interesting.
dig certain spots or something.
I think I read or heard when they were filming the Road Warrior, they had come across that and had wanted to use it in Road Warrior and couldn't, so they added it. They put it in Razorback.
Yeah.
It's just a really cool terrain.
Yeah, it looks heaps good.
Benny falls down a mine shaft and he's holding onto this wire, and Carl is like kicking dirt in his face. It's really good. He's getting him to confess, and
Yeah.
you know, he says, "Oh, by the way, my name's Webb. Is it Weber? My name's Weber. You might have known my wife Beth."
Yeah.
And Benny's become
I wasn't
a
even
total.
there.
Yeah, I wasn't even there. It wasn't me. We, you know, and it was
a boar.
Right. And then he goes, "It was a boar," and Carl's like, "Oh, so you were there? You saw a boar?" And he basically gets out of him like, "We tried, you know, we were going to go to town on your wife, and then a boar showed up." And
yeah, not helping the cause where you're like, I'm not going to help you out now. Fuck off.
Right. Well, because Benny says, like, if you don't help me, I'll die down. I'll fall to my death. Carl has a moment where he looks at the handle and like he could help him.
Yeah.
And then he walks away and makes this choice where, I mean, it's an interesting moment because it's the moment of, do I let somebody die or not? You know? And he doesn't think too hard about it either. It's like he considers it and then he walks away.
Yeah, it's not long. He's pretty much like, long live the king, and like fucking drops him. He just, and then straight away, like, because he's like, you fucked it up. And he's like, the handle starts rolling. He's like, you hear him fall down the mine. You're like, he's dead.
That's it. End of Benny. We're down to one brother and a Razorback.
Rest in peace.
Sarah.
I just feel like saying that after every time you say someone's dead.
Yeah.
Not Benny.
Sarah's posse shows up at this watering hole, and all that they see is a little tiny pig that isn't going to hurt anybody. And they're real disappointed, and they say, "Let's go back to the pub."
Yeah. They're like, yeah, that's it.
Sarah's like, "No, but it was here.
I have more than one tracker."
Right. Carl he hunts down and finds Dicko, who they have a scuffle, and there's a chase, and Dicko like spins around a lot and kind of like slides on dirt a lot. He's got this like,
this is him at his most wildest, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure. This is the actor going completely unhinged as well. Yeah.
It's my last scene. I'm gonna go fucking all out.
They chase each other around. We are introduced to a meat grinder. So imagine like an electric fan that spins on the ground facing up, and it's spinning one way, and then there's also another blade that's spinning in the opposite direction. So you've got this meat grinder, and over it is like a track of carcasses on hooks, and so they like slide over it. They drop down in the meat grinder. There's a cool moment where Carl's standing next to the meat grinder. Dicko's hanging with a carcass off of a hook and like kicks at him. Carl falls down, almost falls into the meat grinder, and now we are introduced to this set piece that will come into play later. It's very obvious that we're going to see this again.
Yeah.
He gets away. He does not fall into the meat grinder, chases Dicko down some more, and the Razorback appears and drags Dicko away, and you hear his screams. But that is another scene that was cut, and
there was a very fucking weird editing with this.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense now.
I don't mind that these scenes are missing, but they're not recovered super well. It does feel like something's missing.
Yeah, like they just cut. It's like he's running one direction, something happens, and then next thing it's completely different direction running another way. It's like,
yep.
So did we miss this part? Which sounds like, they probably did something and cut it out.
The cutscene shows him getting dragged by his leg and screaming. There's a cool moment where he's back against the wall and the Razorback gets up in his face and they kind of like stares him down. It's pretty interesting.
How weird is he though? He puts the fucking
What?
headphones on when he's running, and then before that he's like, "I'm a kangaroo," and then like,
Oh, that's right.
the
Yeah,
guy fucking laughs at him.
imitates a kangaroo because he is in the spotlights of the Mad Max car, right, on his knees, and he's Carl's holding a gun on him.
Yeah,
And so now Dicko is in the position of what one of the kangaroos would have been. And he's ready to be shot. And he's saying, shoot me, shoot me. And he acts like a little kangaroo. And then that's when the Razorback comes and gets him.
he's so crazy.
Do you think Carl would have shot him if the Razorback didn't come?
No, I feel like because I feel like he was like, well, fuck, you're going to do it, just hurry up. Or he'll say something about his wife and then probably would have done it.
Yeah.
I feel like he would have eventually done it because he's like, well, if I just killed your other brother, like,
yeah, I think
go
he's
for
just,
2 for 1.
He's over it. And we know he's like, he had that hallucination. And I feel like it gave us a little bit of an insight into his psyche, perhaps, like there's got a darkness to him.
Wakey, wakey, hands off, snakey.
What a thing to say.
I love all the fucking little catch things in this.
So Sarah can't get people to believe her that now the Razorback is actually at the slaughterhouse. And so she goes, and there's a minute where we think she's dead. She gets kind of chased after, and she's a goner. And now we are left with Carl and the Razorback. A lot of editing, a lot of shaky camera, really cool lighting. One thing leads to another, and we get Carl back on that conveyor belt with the meat grinder. But not before he stabs the Razorback with like this javelin through the chest, and it gets up in his face, and it's spitting blood on his face. It's pretty cool. Turns out pigs like this have like this armor, right? They mentioned in the movie before, you can shoot it as many times as you want with a gun, unless you shoot it from underneath into like the belly. You're not going to hurt it. They have a high tolerance for pain. They can lose a lot of blood and still keep going. And they have these fat deposits that like work as armor for them.
Yeah, that's what I read. It was fucking crazy. I'm like, Jesus, like hunt, like, yeah, like I said earlier, hunt something else.
Yeah. Well,
Can't imagine they taste that good.
No,
just shoot real pigs. Go to a farm.
I don't think I think it's either for the sport or for population control.
Yeah, maybe you feel tough if you've shot something tougher compared to like going to a farm and killing like an innocent pig.
That's something I just don't understand, like the sport of hunting.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I never even shot a gun.
I have shot a gun. My dad had guns. My dad was a gun person. It's not great. And then I was in a musical. It's a Stephen Sondheim musical called Assassins, and we used live guns, and we had to be professionally trained.
Jeez.
And we fired blanks, but we had someone he was someone's husband. He was a soldier, and he was our gun wrangler. And before we walked on stage with the gun, we had to sign it out like on a piece of paper. And then as soon as our scene was over, we had to bring it back and sign it back in. Like it was really controlled.
That's crazy
experience. But it is it's known that the final note quote of the finale in the song is a gunfire. Like that's the final, every character in it fires their gun at the same time.
Oh, okay. Right. But yeah, it is weird. Like you look at a deer and it's like anyone else looks at it. He's like, oh, it's fucking majestic. And they're like, yeah, cool. Fucking shoot.
Kill it. Yeah.
But if I saw one, I feel like key pressure of like being with a bunch of hunters or something. You'd be like, fucking kill it. And you're like, yeah. And then like, oh, you shot it, and you'd feel fucking guilty the whole time. Like, now you got to fucking skin it and do all this. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
The last thing on my mind would be to want to kill it,
Yeah. I'd be like, I'm just happy I saw it in the fucking wild.
Well,
I guess that's where they are, but
the Razorback, though, this one's dangerous.
Yeah, that's less majestic.
Carl is standing next to the meat grinder. He's trying to get the Razorback to charge him. This shot was filmed really quickly. They couldn't figure out how to kill the Razorback until the last day of shooting. They didn't know how they were going to do it. And they decided on the meat grinder. The producers literally told him, you have to finish this movie today. We are way over budget. We are way out of time. Figure it out.
Because they gave up on the electrocution idea.
Yeah, it runs into like an electric fence, gets electrocuted. And so that causes everything in the factory to start going haywire.
Oh, yeah, that's why that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, we were introduced earlier to how fragile kind of the wiring system of this whole place is.
Yeah.
And there's like a steam pump that will explode if it's not attended to properly.
By hitting it.
So there's steam blowing everywhere, interesting lighting, shadows, and the Razorback charges at Carl on the conveyor belt toward the grinder. He jumps up onto a meat hook with a kangaroo carcass on it and flies away. And then the Razorback falls into the grinder and chunks of it fly through the air. And that's the end of the Razorback. I think it's...
No proof that it was alive.
I like this movie. I think it's a little anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Which is...
They didn't even like show it hardly. It like barely... It was like quickly, it was like, he's like slapping his ass, like, come and get me, kiss my ass or whatever. And then like, it's on there for a second. And then you see like 2 seconds of it getting chopped up and that's it. And you're like, and then they spend way more time hugging afterwards.
Yeah, I wish that they had shown the charge after him, you know? And I think it's just unfortunate that maybe they ran out of time and money, you know, because I do think it's a cool way to kill the Razorback.
Yeah. Because I guess it's kind of, you could see it kind of getting maybe stuck on the conveyor belt and it's like, oh, fuck, like, or it's so hell-bent on going for him, doesn't think about what's ahead.
Yeah. Well, the director was disappointed with this too. They actually added the scene where he finds Sarah wrapped up in like some cables hanging upside down and unties her and she's fine. And they wake up and embrace.
Yeah.
She wakes up and they embrace.
Like, let's add one nice moment to the movie.
The director's words are, it was a conclusion, not an ending.
Like, AKA, I was not happy with this movie.
Yeah. And credits roll with some... How do you feel about the score in this movie?
It was all right. I feel like anytime there was a good song, I mean, like, I didn't know that Wiz one, to be honest. I haven't really focused on that one that much, but it's like, one time I hear a song I actually knew, Reckless, it was like when it was playing on the Camel when it went past with the stereo on it. Like, otherwise, yeah, it sounded all right, but I feel like it didn't use any songs. It could have used like a lot of it, like just Australian songs that at the time probably would have been easy as to put on there.
I think Duran Duran plays at one point. Beth is listening to it in the car. The
score,
the music,
she's
right?
Prior to being the rest of the night going bad. I didn't know the song.
The score was by Iva Davies. Now, he was in a band that the director had made music videos for before. It's kind of a lot of synthetic, a lot of electro in the score.
Classic 80s stuff.
He would go on and do the score for like Space Jam, which I think is funny. Master and Commander.
Really?
Yeah. So he worked, but he started out in a band. And it's a memorable score. It's available on Spotify. I want to revisit it separately from the film because...
Yeah, Space Jam.
No. The score for Razorback. Although the score for Space Jam is pretty banging. And that's Razorback. Danny, on Rick or Treat Horrorcast, we have a rating system. A movie is either a trick, which means it's just okay. It's a treat, which means you loved it, or it's a smell my feet, which means it sucked. What do you think?
What was the first one again? Treat?
Trick.
Yeah, I'd say Trick's the medium one, right?
Trick is medium. Treat is amazing. I'd
say Trick because I was like, unlike the other one, which I ripped apart a lot, I actually there wasn't like this one was, or it's easy to watch, but it's also like, yeah, the editing, now you talked about it, I'm like, fuck yeah, that was annoying. I just thought it was like a lot of cutscenes, like, oh, like they did this for the sake of not showing it, or they couldn't show a scene or something. But yeah, that was kind of annoying. But otherwise, it was fun to watch. But, you know, it's like, I didn't hate it, but I don't love it. So yeah, I'd say Trick. But
I would say it's on the high end of Trick. I think, like I said before, watch this movie. Like, there's no reason not to. It is a mean-spirited movie. Like, there's not a lot of humor. You know, it's pretty grounded in coldness, but very entertaining. A very interesting, from an American perspective, representation of the Outback, and beautifully shot. Every single shot in this movie is like specific and gorgeous to look at, interesting. The hallucination scene has become famous. People talk about it.
Yeah.
And it could be a little better, but I blame the studio for where it's lacking rather than the cast or crew, and I think sometimes that's the case. If they had a little more time or a little bigger budget, I do think that finale could have been
like the powers
tighter.
that be started having their input and just taking away everything. He's like, oh, this is kind of my movie. Now you're ruining it. And taking things away from me.
The studio lost faith in it. They did a test screening in Los Angeles to a positive reaction. And then they released it and it bombed. It got mediocre, some great reviews, some mediocre reviews, but it bombed as far as ticket sales go. So the studio sold the foreign rights to some dude. He released it and it was a massive hit in France, and he made a fuck ton of money off of it. The studio missed out on all of that.
Yeah.
But in recent years, people have revisited this and found that it's actually one of the better Jaws ripoffs, perhaps the best Jaws ripoff.
Yeah, would you say it's got a cult following?
I think, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
These days, for sure. I think people are just starting to rediscover it.
Because when I posted it, a lot of people were like, oh, I fucking love that movie. Like, it got a good reaction. Like, no one was like, oh, that's shit. Like, seemed like a lot of people like it. It's more surprised that people, because most of the people who follow me are American, are like, yeah, well, oh, it's a good one. I was like, well, that's nice. It's made its way over there.
Yeah.
Where Wolf Creek's usually the focus and a few other Australian ones like this. It's nice to see an older one still get a bit of a mention. It's had a bit of attention.
I agree. No, it's known for sure. I think it's respected too by a lot of people, and it really launched the careers of a lot of that production team. They really, to go on from this movie to Highlander, and then
that's interesting to know. That's like,
not so great Highlander too. Yeah, which is another great movie. I fucking love Highlander. There can only be one. And that's it.
Not that many quotes.
That's the Rick or That's the Rick or Treat Horrorcast.
Woohoo!
Razorback, week 3 of Animal Attacks. Danny, where can my listeners stalk you?
They can get me on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. I just got sparked that back up again, but all that one word, Creepy Crap Podcast. Australia's favorite horror podcast.
Is that true, or is that some unofficially? Well, all right. I will say this:
fake it till you make it.
It is my favorite Australian horror podcast.
Oh, see, it starts with one.
It starts with one. I'm sure there's more than one. Check out his show, guys. I really can't recommend it enough. Danny's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you being my podcast buddy. And I
definitely got to have you on mine.
Well, you said that last time. And then you had someone else on your show, so
yeah,
one day you can check out my show at Rick or Treat Pod on Instagram. Go to my website rickortreat.com and read my reviews and articles for Rue Morgue and spoiler-free reviews. You'll find links on my website. And I cannot wait to conclude Animal Attack Month next week. Have a return guest and one of my very favorite animal movies of all time. Danny, thank you so much for joining me.
It was an absolute honor. Thank you so much for having me. Fuck. Thank you for having me. It was an absolute honor to be here. It was great to be here. Fuck. I'm dying.
Why don't you go to sleep?
Do you want me to do that again?
No, not at all. That was perfect.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Why don't you get some rest?
An honor being here. Pardon?
And I'll see y'all later, spookies. Thanks for coming Rick or Treating. You can follow the show on Instagram at Rick or Treat Pod. It'd be a real scream if you'd take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the show on whatever platform you're listening on. The show's spooky intro and outro music is a cover of Camille Saint-Saëns' Danse Macabre, with orchestrations composed and performed by Lestat von Monlicht. Links to the artist's music can be found in the episode description. Check him out, he's frighteningly talented. Rick or Treat Horrorcast is independently produced by me, Ricky J. Duarte of Rick or Treat Productions. If you like what you heard, tell a friend.
If you didn't, well, they're coming to get you, listener.